I'm going to introduce Marcy and we'll let her go with this. Marcy McDonald is a mindset strategist and empowerment coach who helps people improve their confidence, focus, and clarity and make a big impact. She's also participant in season 2 of the new reality TV show 4 Days to Save the World, which is launching in July. I'm super excited to see her on that. Marcy is an escapee from the corporate world. She has worked with hundreds of top experts, and now she has poured her experience into a unique transformational coaching program for professionals, entrepreneurs, and experts who want to shift their mindset so they can confidently pursue their dreams in their business and in their life. So take it away, Marcy. Thanks.
So as Debbie mentioned, my area of expertise is mindset, and I use that to empower you to reach your best self in a practical and sustainable way. I'm all about lasting change. So I've been an entrepreneur for the last 7 or so years, and I have a really good idea of what you've probably been going through emotionally as you're pursuing your dreams for your own business. So we've talked about this, Debbie and I. Here are some of the characteristics of the successful entrepreneurial mindset that you need to be confident, to be determined, but flexible enough to pivot when you need to. You heard how often she's pivoted in her career. To be focused, to get help when you need it, to be present in the moment. Unfortunately, those aren't the feelings of most new entrepreneurs. The most new entrepreneurs actually are feeling self-doubting, self-sabotaging, self-questioning, self-limiting, exhausted, overwhelmed, perfectionist, worried about the future, afraid, procrastinating because of all those things. So just throw a yes in the chat if any of those adjectives apply to you, if that's what you've been feeling. Yes, yes, yes. It's, believe me, I totally get it. This is so common for new entrepreneurs, and all of these actually boil down to one problem, which is negative self-talk. So self-talk is the inner chatter that's going on in your head all the time. Sometimes it's just neutral, like I need to remember to turn off the oven. And sometimes it's stuff like encouraging. I've got this, I can do this, or an affirmation. You are a success, you are a success. You've probably said stuff like that, repeating it like it's a magic formula of some kind. If you say it enough, it will just come true. Anybody do that, those affirmations? Just raise your hand if you've done that. Yeah, I thought so. And then there's the other kind of self-talk. That is the negative, destructive, unhealthy, energy sucking, motivation stealing, joy killing self-talk. Not the kind we like. There aren't enough adjectives for how much negative self-talk eats away at you. You want to know what I find the really sad thing about this is, besides how miserable it makes you feel? It's that it's not even true. Your mind is lying to you. Your mind is what's sabotaging your success more than any other factor. And you know what's really, truly horrible about it? It's that most of the time you don't even know what it is you're saying to yourself. Why? Because you're so used to believing these things. You tell yourself, often for years, yeah, I see some of you agreeing with this, you don't even notice them. And what you don't notice, you cannot change. So yeah, if I were to ask you directly, hey, Bruce, are you feeling confident? Hey, Sally, are you feeling worried about this? That sort of thing. Of course, at the time, you're going to be able to say, yeah, Marcy, that's how I'm feeling. But the truth is that these feelings are usually in your subconscious, and they're pervading your every minute. They're affecting your decisions. They're muting your energy. They're leading you to procrastinate about both big and little decisions. And most important for all of us here today, they're keeping you from investing fully in yourself and in your dreams. And that's happening both on the outside, consciously, and on the inside, subconsciously. So that's what I want to focus on right now, because shedding a spotlight on your self-talk is the first step to changing it. And healthy self-talk is exactly what you need to overcome all those emotions that are right now standing between your dream and your success at fulfilling that dream. So I want to tell you two stories about the impact of self-talk. Last year, I had a call with a woman named Susan. Her biggest dream was to start her own business. Everyone in her family had actually been encouraging her to become an entrepreneur and walk away from her very high-stress job. So we talked about some ways she could do that, and especially about her mindset, which was completely in her way. And she could see that. Now, about the same time, I had a call with a woman named Janet. She hated her job. Some of you may have been through this. She hated her boss. She felt completely stuck because of the golden handcuff. She was 57 and felt like she was never going to make it to her retirement. Her health was going downhill, and she was stuck in a negative feedback loop. That's when the same unhealthy thoughts keep circling around and around in your head incessantly, kind of like a squirrel cage in your head, wearing her out. So she too had a dream of starting her own business. Both of these women had the exact same dream to free themselves from their full-time jobs. Both had the exact same negative mindset problems we've been mentioning. Both were equally capable of running their own business. So just hold these two women in the back of your minds while I unpack how important mindset is and self-talk to your succeeding as an entrepreneur. Now, before we go forward, just throw a yes in the chat if you'd like to feel more confident and less worried about building your business. Go ahead, throw those yeses in there. Cheryl wants to, Sally does, Janu does, Bruce does, Wanda does. Okay, everybody does. This is something you want, and that means you're in the right place. You're not alone, and in fact, negative self-talk is more common than you might think. Nearly everyone struggles with negative self-talk at some point in their lives. We're just simply not taught what it is, why and how our brains set us up for negative self-talk, and how to take advantage of positive self-talk to create strong self-confidence and to let go of that worry. It's actually one of the most common problems I see in my clients. The weird thing is that most of the time they're completely unaware that they're talking to themselves in a way that holds them back, put them down, and rob them of their joy, energy, and motivation on a daily basis. It's keeping them from doing the things on their to-do list that they think they want to do, they know they should do, but they just can't get motivated to do. And I'm talking about some very highly successful people. So don't be sitting there saying, but that's only for certain people. No, this is for everybody. In fact, one of my clients said to me, look, after working with you, I've realized that the biggest bully in my life in the last 2 decades has been me. So take a second to think about this. Raise your hand if you are consistently your biggest cheerleader. Let me see, oh, wait a minute. Nobody's answering. No, raise your hand if you're actually your biggest critic. Who's your biggest critic? Just raise your hand. Now, be honest about it. Well, to tell the truth, the internal and ongoing mental chatter, that self-talk of most people, the majority of people, is mostly negative. In fact, it's said to be around 70% negative. And I think that figure is actually pretty low because you don't usually know you're doing it to yourself. Let this statistic sink in. So 7 out of 10 people, and so we've got 28 or so people on this call. So the majority of you are beating yourselves up on a regular basis. 7 to 10 of you are the biggest bullies in your life. So maybe it's a little reassuring to know that if you're in that 70%, you're not alone. But what's even more reassuring is that you can learn to be part of the 30% that have positive self-talk. That is absolutely true. Excuse me, it's a fact. You have the power to turn the table and regulate your emotions. And I'll tell you why in just a minute this is actually a fact and not just wishful thinking. So there are 3 basic steps. First, you have to become aware of what you're telling yourself, not just when you're asked directly, but all the time. Second, you have to become aware of what you're telling yourself, how that's actually affecting what you're feeling and what you're doing. And third, you have to practice choosing different messages for yourself through a practice called reframing, healthy messages. because how you feel is actually a choice, which is really great news because it means you can control it. Let's just take the emotion of fear, for instance, which many of you are feeling as you face building your own business. Fear creates more fear. Fear creates total havoc if you focus on it rather than focusing on the reality of your situation. It's the story of your fear. You have to turn your mind away from imagining the worst possible scenarios and pay attention to what's actually going on in front of you. So here's a statistic that blew me away when I found it out. Did you know that 40% of the things we worry about never happen? That's nearly half of the things you're worrying about never happen. 30% of what we worry about has actually already happened. So there's nothing you can do about it. We only have control over about 4% of what we worry about. So throw a yes in the chat if you've spent a lot of your time worrying. It can be about anything. Yes, yes. Worry is something that happens to all of us, but as I've just shown, it's statistically an insignificant likelihood that anything you're worrying about is going to happen. So why spend your days, your nights, your weekends, and even your sleep dwelling on your fears? Living in fear is no way to live, and it keeps you from doing what it is you want to do that makes your life full, fulfilling, and joyful. It's actually a habit of negative, critical self-talk. Yeah, a habit. So because it's a habit, that's good news. It is totally possible to change any habit, whether it's drug addiction or biting your nails or critical self-talk. You can change your self-talk so it's for you instead of against you. So it builds your confidence instead of tearing it down. So it proves to you that you truly are amazing because you are. And that's exactly what I teach my clients, how to do this. This is so powerful. I just love this because it's a philosophy for a better life. But it does require self-awareness. And that means that we have to truly see and hear ourselves. We have to hear that self-talk. We have to then face down the limitations that we ourselves are putting on our possibilities. We have to look at our perceptions and shake them up and shift them so that they're healthy, productive responses to whatever is going on around us and to what we want to do. So once I personally got this concept, then I realized, oh, wait, we can change how we feel and what happens in our lives by adjusting what we're telling ourselves. Therefore, rebuilding our mindsets in a totally different way. The mindsets you probably know are the assumptions and the expectations we own about ourselves and about the others around us that guide our behavior. So for some of you, that critical self-talk you might think is coming from other people who aren't being supportive. And it's true, they could be saying things that aren't helpful, but you are the one that's owning that self-talk and allowing it to penetrate into your being in such a way that it's holding you back. But because they are only beliefs, they can be changed. The challenge, of course, is learning how to change them. And believe me, I did not start out my journey as an entrepreneur knowing the answer to this question. Most people struggle with it because we're really not taught how the brain works and how to started. I was actually crushed by my self-talk. And that made it really hard to shift my beliefs about myself. But after years of practice, which I can now shortcut for my clients, I learned how to do it. So can everybody hear me? Something weird just happened. Okay, well, why is it so hard to change this if every one of you can say, well, I don't want to feel this way? It's because the emotional part of our brain is in charge, not the rational part. No, it's the emotional part. So the rational part of your mind, and I need to get into the brain science just briefly because I want you to understand how possible it is to change things. The rational mind processes about 60 bits of information a second. So that seems like a huge amount, right? 60 things. But now everyone, I want everyone to blink. Just go ahead, everybody blink. There. Okay, in less time than it took you to blink just then, the emotional mind processed a quadrillion bits of information. 60 bits or a quadrillion bits. And to process the information that fast, it pulls from the past, and it pulls from the negative stuff in your past because that's got more energy. It's like, that's where the spotlight is. That's where the emotional mind goes. So yeah, the emotional mind is in charge, and that is not great for your level of confidence. It's really good for boosting your fears, but not for boosting your confidence. So when I first learned this, I understood that I was telling myself stories about myself, and that I could learn to hear and change those stories by focusing more on my rational mind. And that's what you guys are doing too. Every time you tell yourself, I'm overwhelmed, I can't do this, I'm not good enough to do this, whatever it is you're saying to yourself, you're actually the one making that up. You're creating what becomes then your reality, but it's not really a reality. It's just stories. Because without the rational mind really processing what's going on, past negative emotions take on the appearance of fact. So you might logically know that you're smart, attractive, good, have a great business idea, have the experience or whatever. But when an obstacle arises, your emotional mind commandeers your self-talk. It says, I'm the general. And it reacts with whatever old negative feelings it can latch onto during that eye blink. Boom! That logic goes out the window. The rational mind just rolls over and plays dead. Oh, the emotional mind says it, it must be true. Not so. So that realization led me actually to write a book called Build Happiness, Change Your Perspective, and Change Your Life, and to create a neurologically based tool called Unblocks. These are three-dimensional blocks that you can write on, move around, wash off, and they help you perceive those relationships among your thoughts and feelings, your emotional mind, and your rational mind. I created 70 exercises, and I did every one of them. The connection between understanding how my brain works, your brain works, and doing these exercises enabled me to finally really hear and change my own self-talk. And doing that has changed my life in a way that has lasted. So the exercises made the differences between happy moments and happy days, weeks, and years. Pretty much nothing throws me off my game of being centered and confident anymore. Because of how our brains work, and this is the really good news, we can also, all of you, create new habits of self-talk that are healthy so that you don't have moments where you feel like you're good, but you know that you're good. You know that you can do this and you can hang on to this. But this is science, my friends. This is not just some woo-woo belief system. And that means it will work for everyone here, which I love. I love that we can change this for ourselves. So here are the steps to reset your self-talk in more detail. I just want to build this out a little bit so you get the process. You need to notice when you feel tense and unhappy. You'd think you'd be aware of that, but sometimes things just catch you up, and then the next thing you know, you're drowning in an emotional whirlpool, and you're actually completely unaware of what really put you there. You also need to question your perspective in these situations. So once you notice imposter syndrome, for instance, then you have to ask yourself, what's the truth of this? Is this a fact or is this a story? What was going on when I noticed this about myself? And question your perspective. That's vital. But as Debbie said earlier, it's very hard sometimes for us to see that for our own selves because we get so close to it. So third, you need to recognize that how you feel is up to you. You choose it. It doesn't matter that in the past you've chosen the bad feelings, because going forward, you could choose the positive, healthy feelings. Fourth, you need to choose how you want to feel and reframe that negative self-talk into positive and true self-talk. So you can't just make up stuff and say, go from saying, I'm not feeling confident to saying, oh, I am confident, because that's not true. You're not feeling confident. You have to find the pathway between those two statements so that you can build on what are the truths within yourself. And that, again, usually takes someone from the outside helping you to see that. And finally, you need to practice that new feeling until you turn it into a new habit of healthy, energizing, positive self-talk. Yes, that is a habit. It takes 30 to 60 days, and you can reset your mindset completely. So notice, question, recognize, choose, and practice. This is the essential process for changing your self-talk. And believe me, if I can learn how to take these steps, me, former workaholic, former succeeded everything, but still feel like crap inside, you can too when you have a guide to help you. I really want to point out that you need to make these changes before you find yourself at the end of your life without getting around to building this dream business of yours. Otherwise, you're going to keep saying, I'll do it someday. But trust me, someday is the same as no day. And that's not what I want for you. So let's get back to the two women I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, Janet and Sue. Janet became my client. When we started working together, she was so overwhelmed by her inner dialogue, which consisted entirely of negative feedback loops that she couldn't even hear. She just was used to saying these things over and over and over again. How stuck she was, how angry she was, how unhappy she was, how she hated everything. She just fueled that misery constantly. It was like it was a pet that she was feeding every day, every minute. Well, I worked my entire mindset self-talk process with her, and it changed how she talked to herself completely. So after we worked together, she told me, look, you gave me the tools I needed to conquer my overwhelming negativity. I learned how to change what I was saying to myself and how to create a positive inner world. And guess what else happened? Once we built those new, healthier patterns of thinking and feeling, she was so much more confident that she came up with a plan to start her side business before she retired. Beforehand, she didn't even have the energy to think of ideas or think of how she might do it. Everything seemed too big, too overwhelming. But just a couple of weeks ago, she told me that she is actually set to retire this year, 12 years ahead of schedule, because her business that she started when we were working together has done so well. She never would have even started it if she hadn't shifted her mindset. So what about Susan? She chose not to hire me to help with her mindset. I had a conversation with her actually last week as well, nearly a year after we first talked. She was telling me all about how she really wanted to start her business, that she was tired, she was burned out, she hated her job. She just really thought she should start her own business. Well, yeah, she should, but she's lost a year that she could have been at least taking small steps toward building that dream, because she's still letting fear rule her life. It's all about the mindset. So here's the thing. As long as you're saying no to something this important, you cannot figure out the solutions that would come to you if you said yes. Not everything has to get done at once. Not every decision has to be huge. You can make small steps toward shifting your mindset, building your business, building your lane. But staking your claim in your future means that you also recognize what you need to change in order to succeed, including shifting your mindset and hiring experts to help in whatever areas you identify you most need them. Look, I totally get reluctance to spend money on yourself and on your dream. I have been there. When I was thinking about hiring Debbie, I had to look really long and hard at my finances, because it's a huge thing to build a business. I'd had a previous business on my own. I was shifting to something brand new. I knew I needed help. And I realized I couldn't grow the business the way I wanted to have the impact I believe I'm meant to have if I didn't invest in myself. And that meant investing in Debbie. So I invite you to take a hard look at what it will take to move you forward in your dream, whether it's mindset, whether it's strategy, or both of these things, and invest in yourself. Every successful entrepreneur I know has done this at some point, sometimes multiple points. Life is too short to wait for the perfect conditions to do the stuff you think is important. When you have someone by your side, so you can implement those things effectively, you can literally change every day of your life for the rest of your life. So I want to give you a little head start to help you deal with that inner critic. I've created an e-guide. I mentioned it earlier, 7 steps to silence your inner critic. And thanks to Debbie for pushing me to make this longer detail about how to shift your self-talk and your mindset, enough to get you started anyway. I'll throw the link in the chat, sign up, download it, and get started on this really vital piece of becoming a successful entrepreneur. I'll also throw my website link in the chat. So Debbie, I think we might have a few minutes for extra questions or not.
A couple quick questions.
Okay.
So we keep on time. That was awesome, Marcy. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Anybody have a question?
You covered it so well. I loved how you tied in the point of the 2 ladies, and then you brought it back around. I mean, it's like think, and in even a short time that you delivered that message, it got us to the point. So I think they got it. That's what's awesome.
Thanks. I'm going to turn it back over to you, and I'll
Alrighty.
answer the questions in the chat.
Right. And then, of course, reach out to Marcy and on her website too and answer questions, or you can go to Marcy at marcymcdonald.com and ask her questions. I just put it out there for you. So, yeah, she's amazing. And she's even helped me. Like, no matter how many times you've been doing things or whatever, you go through stuff. And I think mine was at the beginning of the year. It's like, what do I really want? What really makes me happy? What do I want this year to look like? We just came out of 2 really, really tough years. And if it doesn't, I don't care how strong you are in your personality and your mindset, it's hit us. It's hit us hard, and the news we hear every day continues to. And we got to get those new habits in place. And Marcy certainly helped me do that very quickly. So thanks again, Marcy. Appreciate it.